In 1990, the sports world was shocked when Hank Gathers passed away in the middle of a basketball game between Loyola Marymount and Portland State University. And in that time, media coverage was strictly newspapers, sports news at night, and ESPN had their 30-minute sports center that showed the previous day's games as their highlights. Now, when this happened, um, it was something that didn't hit the sports world right away. In fact, the game was actually being broadcast on radio, which at the time, the two gentlemen that were broadcasting the game, I believe, were still employees of the university, and they actually kept right on reporting what was happening on the court without missing a beat. So, and actually, they were the very first ones to break this story to the people that were listening to it on the radio. Um, as Hank Gathers went to the hospital, there was actually an Associated Press reporter that commandeered one of the telephones, one of the payphones in the lobby, and was actually reporting what was happening with Hank Gather's status to the Associated Press. That way, media coverage could be up to date. In fact, one of these announcers that was calling the game, when he got to the hospital, he was actually paged to come talk to the local media because they wanted updates as to what he had witnessed, what he had saw, and basically the story like that. Most of the media coverage that was the videos from it was from ESPN, that showed him collapsing on the court. The videos were actually taken that day, but they were being taken in order to play it on the air the next day to show the coverage of the game to report on what happened. Um, I think Dan Patrick said it best when he kind of stated back in that day when we showed this video, there was no websites, no blogs, nothing to come back and have people criticize for the video we showed, because in essence, what they did was they actually showed Hank Gathers dying right there on the court. They showed his collapse, his struggle to get up, and then him laying back down again, and basically his eyes flickering and dying right there on the court. And this was unheard of back in that time. I mean, the only other time you saw something like this was with the Challenger shuttle when it blew up in media. It kind of took that and ran with it and kept replaying, kept replaying, and kept replaying. And media kind of did the same thing with the Hank Gathers thing. They took the video that ESPN had and they would show it over and over, just the collapse. But it was actually ESPN that showed it, and I believe it was Chris Berman that was actually the sportscaster that first reported the video and first showed the video on ESPN. And he warned the world. He's like, pay attention, this is what's coming. Um, so back in that day, with it being pre-internet, pre-cell phone, everybody had to wait to find out what would happen. The game being played in LA, they actually didn't find out locally until right before the Lakers game that evening. They broke in and told them what had happened before the Lakers took the court. And then again on the evening news. And then most of the rest of the story broke with newspapers and media the next day. Um, and that's when a lot of people started picking up on what really happened. Um, it's just, I mean, Hank Gathers was a big basketball player back in that time. So for something like this, it lasted a long time. And with the start of the NCAA tournament, a lot of people started following you, Loyola Marymount, and actually started cheering for him more and hoping that they would actually pull it out in the end. They ended up losing the Elite Eight to UNLV, who went on to win. But there were sportscasters and people in Vegas that were actually admitted to actually cheering in the press boxes every time Loyola would score a bucket or win a game. People were pulling for this team to pull it out. I think the amazing thing here is, with it being pre-internet, pre-cell phone, and the media actually having to research the facts before it can be reported on, it was kind of one of the last instances, one of the last big instances where a story this big took a long time to develop and get out. And like Dan Patrick said, and I think it's one of the most telling things of this time, is when they played this video, there wasn't these websites and blogs that came back and said, why'd you do that? I mean, to the world, they were shocked. Nowadays, we're conditioned to where we see it all the time. I mean, it can be uploaded something can happen on the side of the road and be uploaded to YouTube in a matter of minutes. So I mean, for this to happen back then, and it was a shocking moment in sports.